My name is Elena, and I am 41 years old, living in Austin, a city I love but which sometimes feels too big and too fast for my quiet dreams. Every morning, the sun would find me already awake, long before my alarm, my body humming with a nervous energy that was a mix of anticipation and dread for the day ahead. My hands, though strong and capable from years of work, often felt heavy, carrying the invisible weight of everything I hoped to achieve and everything I feared losing. I worked as a dog groomer at a busy local salon, a job I truly loved because it meant spending my days surrounded by wagging tails and sloppy kisses, transforming scruffy pups into fluffy showpieces. The dogs brought me so much joy, and they reminded me of my own beloved companion, Max, my scruffy terrier mix, who was 14 now and had been by my side since he was a tiny puppy. Max was more than a pet. He was my family, my shadow, my steady heartbeat in a world that often felt unpredictable. My dream, a dream I had nursed for years, was to open my own small grooming shop, a place where every dog would feel loved and pampered, where I could set my own hours and pour my heart into my work without having to answer to anyone else. I had a vision for it, a cozy little spot with bright murals on the walls and soft, natural light, maybe even a small garden patch for the dogs to stretch their legs. But that dream felt incredibly distant, a shimmering mirage on the horizon that always seemed to recede as I walked towards it. Every dollar I earned from scrubbing muddy paws and untangling matted fur went towards rent, groceries, and Max's special senior dog food, leaving precious little for savings. I was always just scraping by, an expert at making every penny stretch, always negotiating a few more days with a bill collector, always saying no to little treats for myself. The constant financial pressure was a heavy blanket wrapped around me, suffocating my hopes. It wasn't just the lack of money, it was the quiet fear that gnawed at me, the internal nemesis that whispered doubts in the dead of night. You'll never get ahead, Elena. You're trapped. What if something goes wrong and you can't handle it? This fear was the heaviest weight of all, making me question my own strength and resilience. I began working even harder, taking every extra shift offered, sometimes staying late into the evening, long after the other groomers had gone home, to finish just one more bath or a meticulous haircut. I started cutting my own expenses to the bare minimum, brewing coffee at home instead of buying it, mending old clothes instead of buying new ones, and opting for quiet evenings with Max over any kind of social outing. My savings account, a modest online jar I lovingly labeled Dream Shop, began to slowly, painstakingly grow, each dollar a tiny victory against the overwhelming tide of bills. Just when I thought I was making real progress, a series of setbacks struck, each one feeling like a direct hit to my already fragile hopes. First, my old car, a reliable but ancient sedan, decided it had enough, sputtering to a halt on the highway, requiring a costly transmission repair that wiped out a significant chunk of my carefully hoarded savings. Then my landlord informed me of an unexpected rent increase, explaining it was simply the cost of living in booming Austin, forcing me to rework my already tight budget. My dream shop seemed to float further and further away, a cruel joke played by fate. But the real breaking point, the moment that truly brought me to my knees, arrived swiftly and brutally. One ordinary Tuesday morning, Max, who had always been a sturdy and vibrant dog despite his age, woke up strangely quiet, refusing his breakfast, his tail, usually a constant motion of joy, hanging limp. My heart immediately clenched with a primal fear. I rushed him to the emergency veterinary clinic, my hands shaking on the steering wheel, Max whimpering softly in his carrier beside me. The vet, a kind woman with gentle eyes, examined him thoroughly, her face growing serious as she delivered the devastating news. Max had a severe intestinal blockage, requiring immediate, complicated surgery. Without it, he wouldn't survive the week. My blood ran cold as she quoted the cost, a number so astronomically high it felt like she was speaking a foreign language. It was more money than I had ever seen in my life, certainly more than I had in my drained savings account. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. I pleaded with her, my voice cracking, asking if there were payment plans, if I could do something, anything, but her face showed a deep sadness as she explained that without a significant upfront payment, they couldn't begin. I spent what felt like an eternity in the sterile waiting room, desperately calling every friend, every distant relative I could think of, my voice growing hoarse with each rejection, each sympathetic but unhelpful reply. My hands trembled as I called my boss, asking for an advance, only to be told it wasn't possible. The internal nemesis screamed in my ear now, not a whisper but a roar. "You failed him, Elena. You can't even save the one thing you love most." I looked at Max, his old eyes looking up at me trustingly from his kennel, and I felt a despair so profound it threatened to swallow me whole. The unthinkable thought, the one I had pushed away with all my might, now pressed in on me relentlessly. I might have to say goodbye to my best friend, not because it was his time, but because I simply could not afford to save him. The thought was a dagger twisting in my gut. I sat there, tears streaming silently down my face, utterly broken, my head in my hands, feeling the crushing weight of my powerlessness. As I sat there in the busy waiting room, the sounds of barking dogs and hushed conversations around me blurring into a meaningless hum, I must have looked utterly distraught. I remember the vet assistant coming to gently check on me, her voice soft as she reiterated that they needed a decision soon. My heart felt like a shriveled prune in my chest, and I was about to tell her the words I never wanted to utter, the words that would condemn my Max, when a voice, clear and kind, cut through my haze of grief. "Excuse me," a woman said, her voice warm but firm. I slowly lifted my head, my eyes blurry with tears, to see a woman in her late 50s, with kind eyes and a gentle smile, standing next to me. She was holding a small carrier, a fluffy white cat peeking out from inside. "I couldn't help but overhear," she continued, her gaze meeting mine, full of genuine compassion. "Is your dog in trouble?" I could only nod, a choked sob escaping my throat. She listened patiently as I, between gasps and tears, explained Max's condition and the impossible cost of his surgery. "Please, just give him a chance," I whispered, my voice barely audible. The woman reached into her purse, pulling out a credit card without a moment's hesitation. My eyes widened, confused. "I want to pay for it," she said simply, her eyes twinkling with a kindness I had never seen before. "All of it." My jaw dropped. I shook my head frantically, trying to protest, telling her she couldn't, that it was too much, that I was a stranger. But she cut me off, placing a comforting hand on my arm. "Someone did it for me once," she said, her voice quiet but firm, a knowing smile playing on her lips. "Years ago, when my own dog, a little dachshund named Penny, needed emergency surgery and I had nothing. A kind stranger paid for her, no questions asked. They just said, 'Pay it forward when you can.' And now," she looked at Max's picture on the counter, "it's my turn." I burst into fresh tears, but these were tears of overwhelming relief and gratitude, a profound, unburdening wave of emotion. I tried to thank her, but the words wouldn't come, my voice lost in a mix of sobs and astonishment. She simply smiled, squeezed my hand, and disappeared with the vet assistant to settle the bill, leaving me stunned, a miraculous light piercing through my darkest hour. Max had his surgery, and after a tense few days, he recovered slowly but surely, returning to his old self, a little slower, a little grayer, but still full of love and life. The stranger's name, I later learned, was Sarah, and though I never saw her again after that day, her act of selfless kindness etched itself into the very core of my being, changing me forever. Max's recovery was a slow, steady climb, each wag of his tail and every soft nudge of his head a testament to the miracle that had happened. The fear of losing him had been so immense, so all-consuming, that his presence now felt like a constant, gentle blessing. Sarah's act of kindness didn't just save Max, it saved me. It lifted that heavy, suffocating blanket of dread and replaced it with a warmth, a sense of interconnectedness I had never known. It was as if someone had handed me a key to a door I didn't even realize existed, a door to a brighter future. I realized then that my struggle, my financial hardship, had made me focus inward, consumed by my own scarcity. But kindness, true kindness, was about looking outward, seeing beyond yourself. This experience didn't magically erase my financial challenges overnight, but it ignited a new kind of determination within me. I still worked hard, saving every penny, but now it felt different. It felt imbued with purpose, with a deeper meaning. I opened my own small grooming shop 2 years later, a cozy space just as I had envisioned it, filled with sunlight and the happy sounds of splashing water and contented barks. I named it Max's Oasis, in honor of my furry best friend and the kindness that had saved him. I made sure to keep my prices reasonable, and I always offered a free bath or discount to anyone struggling, quietly watching for the signs I knew so well. I even started a small fund for those truly desperate, a little pot of money where clients could donate, and I would match it, ensuring that no pet in my care would ever suffer because of a bill. I found myself volunteering at local animal shelters on my days off, offering free grooming services for animals awaiting adoption, making sure they looked and felt their best before meeting their forever families. My internal nemesis, the voice of doubt and fear, was still there sometimes, a whisper in the back of my mind, but it was no longer a roar. It had been replaced by a strong, steady belief in goodness, in connection, and in my own ability to make a difference. Years passed, and Max, though slower now and mostly deaf, was still by my side, a testament to the enduring power of love and unexpected kindness. One sunny afternoon, I was at the veterinary clinic, the very same one where Max had been saved, for his annual checkup. As I sat in the waiting room, holding Max close, I overheard a young man on the phone near me, his voice trembling as he spoke to a friend. He was describing his beloved terrier, an accident, and the impossible cost of emergency surgery. His voice grew quiet, choked with despair, as he said he didn't know how he was going to pay for it, that he loved his dog more than anything, but he just couldn't afford it. It was like an echo from my past, a scene playing out exactly as it had for me all those years ago. My heart ached for him, and without a moment's hesitation, without even a second thought, I rose from my seat. I walked over to him, a gentle smile on my face, and handed him my credit card. He looked at me, confused, his eyes wide with a mix of surprise and worry. "Excuse me," I said, my voice soft but firm, just like Sarah's had been for me. "I couldn't help but overhear. Please let me pay for your dog's surgery." He stammered, trying to refuse, asking why, telling me he was a stranger. I simply smiled, a deep, profound joy swelling in my chest, and repeated the words that had changed my life, the words that now felt like a sacred trust. "Someone did it for me once," I told him, a tear pricking at the corner of my eye, "and now it's my turn." As I watched the relief wash over his face, saw the hope flicker in his eyes, I knew, with absolute certainty, that life truly had a way of coming full circle, and that even the smallest act of kindness could create a ripple so vast, it could change the entire world, one wagging tail, one grateful heart at a time.